Hi, I'm Madison, welcome back to my channel. Today I have some spring book recommendations for you. So we are well into spring now, although I think we're officially into spring because the weather is now finally warming up. No offense, but when it is cold as titties outside, that ain't spring. Well, that's not spring, that is still winter. I'm not a happy camper. The weather's gonna start warming up. I'm gonna be able to go outside without my gigantic massive jacket on for it to actually be spring. Anyway, let's get into some book recommendations. I've got a little bit of a mixture here. Some romance, some fantasy, a little bit of everything for everyone. I actually got a manga in here as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. First we have Springtide by Kai Stevens. This cover just screams spring to me, and just the whole I feel like college romances are also like huge spring vibes. That's kind of the feel I get when it comes to when I think of spring books. And also this cover just gives fun spring, getting into summer vibes. It's like that pre-summer feeling. That's what I was getting here. Harper is crushing on a guy on the baseball team, and she is also in journalism, and she ends up getting assigned, obviously a sport to report on, and she ends up getting assigned the football team, and she's like, oh, damn it, I really want to get changed to baseball, how do I get that to happen? So she tells her advisor, she's like, actually, I'm dating a guy on the football team, so it's a conflict of interest. You really shouldn't put me on them. I should be doing baseball instead. The only problem is that this rumor then spreads, and it becomes the fact that Harper is apparently dating Luca. Now Luca ends up hearing about this, and he goes, you know what? Fine, I'm blackmailing you. If you don't want me to tell everyone that that is not the case, and that you lied, and that you should not be doing all this stuff, you actually have to fake date me because I need your help because of an injury. They end up agreeing to fake date each other for this mutually beneficial reason, and it is their romance. It is 100% Grumpy Sunshine. She is such a sunshine character. She is spitting rainbows, kissing puppies 110%, and he is just grumpy. He's very stoic. It is a little bit slow burn, so do know that as well, but the fake dating is just always my favorite. Next we have In Your Dreams, Holden Rhodes by Stephanie Archer. So this is a Grumpy Sunshine Friends with Benefits romance. I'm living. I feel like Grumpy Sunshine is great for the spring actually, now that I think about it. That's kind of the vibes we're going for here. So you're following Sadie and you're following Holden. Now Sadie's an interior designer who just found out that her favorite aunt has passed away and that her fiance is actually a con man and has left her $200,000 in debt. We love that. However, it turns out that Sadie's aunt actually left her inn. Now, the only thing is that the inn is not just left to Sadie, it is also left to Holden. And Holden is her aunt's best friend's son. So they actually grew up together like childhood friends. Now, Sadie thinks that Holden hates her. She thinks that Holden abhors her, and as a result, she kind of hates him back. But it turns out that no, Holden doesn't hate her. Holden's actually had a crush on her his entire life. He's just such a grumpy dude that his love for her has come off that he hates her. So now you've got Sadie and Holden who are stuck now running this inn together, and it is their romance. Oh my god. Literally cuteness. And in a hate to love but not really hate to love that ends up being friends with benefits, what ends up happening is Holden one day is googling how to get a wife, and Sadie ends up walking in and seeing that and is like, I'll help you get a wife, and he's like, I want you to be my wife. It's too funny. But I just feel like this sort of again is a really great spring vibe, and I just vibe with it. Next we have Flowerheart by Catherine Bakewell. This is a YA cottagecore fantasy romance. The second I said cottagecore, I was like, cottagecore is spring. Spring is cottagecore. You cannot disagree with me there. So you find Clara, and she's got wild magic. It's something that she just is not able to contain and control, and one day she accidentally ends up sprouting poisonous flowers in her dad's chest. Now the only way that she can reverse this magic is with a certain spell, and the only person that she knows who can do that is her ex-best friend Xavier. But Xavier wants nothing to do with her. He is so over Clara. Whatever ended up happening between them, it is just end of story. He's completely changed into a different person, and he ends up actually agreeing to help Clara, but at a very, very steep cost. And as a result, Clara starts getting to know him again and starts learning that there is something a lot darker, something a lot more sinister going on. There are a lot more secrets in this world than she had initially realized, and the fact that maybe her dangerous magic could actually be the key to saving them all. And so, yeah, I don't know. I haven't read this yet, but this one I had to put on this list because if you don't put this on the spring list for 2023, that would be such a disservice to myself because this book screams spring. And of every book on this list, it's the most springy of them all. and that is a word, come at me. Next we're going to do a book that I read many years ago, an audiobook, and would definitely recommend the audiobook, but for some reason this is a spring book for me, and I can't explain why. Okay, and that is The Female the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This book is a life-changing book, FYI. If you have not read this yet, please do. So following Alex Craft, and when her sister was murdered 3 years ago and the killer walked free, Alex decided to take it upon herself to enact vengeance. So she kills people, okay? And she's got no qualm about killing bad men who don't get punished for the bad things that they do and the women that they hurt. Then you've got Jack, and Jack is, you know, gunning for valedictorian. He's a star athlete. He's got the prom queen basically on his arm every single day. He's the guy that everyone wants to be. But the thing is that he was the one who found Alex's sister murdered 3 years ago, and it's something that he's never really been able to let go of, and he ends up kind of crossing paths with Alex, and they end up striking up a friendship, and he's someone that he wants to get to know. Then you've got PK, and she's a preacher's kid. She's the one that everyone kind of, no one invites her places. They all think that she's a preacher's kid. She's so tied to this, you know, whole personality that she feels like she has nowhere she can go, and her and Alex both end up working at the animal shelter together and start forming a friendship. And what this story is about is kind of how their lives together for these three people all intertwine, and the crazy shit that ends up happening. This is kind of psychological thriller-ish, I will say, to an extent. There is graphic eye horror in this. If graphic eye horror is a no-no zone for you, do know that. I will never forget the graphic eye horror scene. I was literally walking to class, headphones in, was on my way there, and the scene happened, and it was just so offhand. I just stopped walking in the middle of I just stopped in the middle of the pathway. I just full on, it was just like, that did not, oh my god. It is unlike anything else. If you've not picked this up, please do. Next we have One Look by Lena Hendrix. So from this guy who is a single dad, and he is a former NFL athlete who has now turned into a football coach and is now coaching a college football team. And then you've got Lark, and Lark crosses his paths one day when he's at the graveyard and sees her crying and goes to offer his condolences, only to find out that Lark has been paid to be there to cry at the funeral because she is an actress for hire. Lark then ends up being his next door neighbor and eventually ends up being the nanny for his daughter. It is just absolutely hilarious. It is just one of the funniest things in the entire freaking world. I mean, she's literally being paid. She's being paid to cry at funerals. It is the funniest shit. Like, you don't see it every single day. It is such a unique thing, and it just stands out to you because of that. I'm also just such a sucker for single dad sport romances. They're just like always so good. So they seem like the perfect kind of spring vibe as well, just because sport romance, nannies. For a manga, I've got Waiting for Spring, which I picked because it's got the word spring in it, and when I was making this video, it was the first one I thought of. So in this manga series, you are following Mitsuki. She is a high school student. She's really struggled to make friends though. It's just not something that she excels at, and she really wants to, but she just doesn't connect with the other girls. And she works part-time at a cafe, and one day she's in there working part-time, and the four most popular boys from her high school who are on the basketball team come into the cafe, and she actually ends up striking up a friendship with these four guys, one of which is a guy who's like in love with like her co-worker, so that's why they keep coming back there. But she ends up striking up a friendship with those four guys and ends up actually falling in love with one of them as well. And it is her romance with him, her kind of like almost first romance in general. It's very coming of age, very sweet, very cute. Not too lighthearted. There are some serious things that do end up going on, but it is one of my favorite like manga series of all time, and you will not regret trying this out, especially if you are a beginner. It's actually a very good beginner manga as well, because the panels in this are pretty easy to understand. They're pretty large and things like that, and it's not too confusing with like the way that things overlap, and I don't know, it's very wholesome. So, and then last but not least, we have The Plus One by Mazey Eddins. Wedding season, I feel like for spring, perfection. Wedding season is always spring. I just feel like there's something about it that screams that to me, plus this cover also screams spring to me. So in this you've got Indira and Jude, and they're childhood enemies. They absolutely abhor each other. They grew up hating each other, and they haven't actually seen each other in ages until a fateful wedding occurs. Due to the circumstances, Indira and Jude actually end up being each other's fake dates to this wedding to escape their own individual problems. For Indira, it's because her longtime boyfriend cheated on her and is now at this wedding for the entire extravagant event with his new girlfriend. And Jude is a doctor who's been abroad for the last 3 years to avoid all of his family issues and family matters, and being back at the wedding has kind of brought everything back to the surface and back to light, and he doesn't want to deal with that. I absolutely adore the crap out of Mazey Eddins. Mazey Eddins is one of my favorite authors. She's just always so hit. Her books are a really great mix of, you know, real life problems with a lot of great spice and just hilarious banter and funny AF moments. They always end up making you feel good by the end of it, and you really can't go wrong with any of her books. I'm so sad this series has now ended because it's one of my favorites, and you don't have to read them in order. The characters and things, like, nothing really interconnects. Like, you might see like 1 or 2 cameos, but this is like a standalone, like, to the very max, I promise. But yes, all right. Those are my like 6 or 7, however many I did, spring book recommendations for 2023. Let me know down below what your favorite spring book might be. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel, and don't forget to check me out over on TikTok and Instagram. And until next time, thanks a bunch everyone. Bye-bye.